Welcome back to Everyday Race. Today I'm gonna try to clean intake valves on this gasoline direct injected cylinder head. This cylinder head came out of a 2008 HHR SS 2-liter turbocharged direct injected engine, and it had about 100,000 miles on it. And intake valves have some deposits on them. So the reason it happens is because the injectors are spraying in the combustion chamber. The older engines had the injectors in the intake manifold, and the injectors would spray in the intake port, and that would clean oil and carbon deposits from the valves. Now, direct injected engines don't have anything spraying here except for the some oil fumes from a PCV system. So it's a pretty big problem, and I just want to see which one of these would clean the intake valves the best without actually doing zero work whatsoever. The plan is simple. I'm going to spray each port with either Seafoam, CRC. This is a non-flammable brake parts cleaner, and a regular brake parts cleaner. And I'm going to let it sit for 24 hours. And then tomorrow, I'm going to see which one removed the most deposits from the intake valve. So first, let's look at before pictures. I'm going to need a camera with the flashlight. Alright, here we go. This is going to be cylinder number 1. Now let's see what it looks like. Alright. Definitely got a lot of stuff on the valves. Now let's move to cylinder number 2. Oh yeah, not as much stuff, but there's still stuff in there. And the intake port as well. Next, let's move to cylinder number 3. Oh yeah, some more crap in it. And last, cylinder number 4. Yeah, this one's got, I think this one's got the most crap in it. So these are before pictures before the treatment. Alright, so I'm going to use this AutoZone brake cleaner, the one that dries. So it's going to go on cylinder number 1. I'm going to use this CarQuest non-flammable brake parts cleaner on the cylinder number 2. I'm going to use this CRC intake valve and turbo cleaner on a cylinder number 3, and fancy schmancy Seafoam Spray, it'll go in the cylinder number 4. So let me go ahead and open these up and get started. Alright, so first let's do AutoZone, a regular brake cleaner. I'm just going to spray it in this cylinder. Oh yeah. I see some of it's coming out, but it is what it is. Alright, next for cylinder number 2, I'm going to spray this non-flammable brake parts cleaner. Alright, it looks pretty good. Cylinder number 3 will be getting the fancy CRC GDI intake valve and turbo cleaner. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, look at that. That's pretty foamy. The other stuff is just clear. Alright, that should do it. Now, so far, the regular brake cleaner cleaned the part of the intake port where I was spraying pretty good, right about here. The non-flammable cleaned up not as good. You can actually see the difference. And then the fancy schmancy CRC got a tiny clean, well, semi-clean spot. So far, a regular brake cleaner removed the most carbon out of the intake port. So last, oh, look at that. Look at that stuff bubbling up. I'm not even sure if I should be breathing this, but that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's did not expect to see that. Next, let's do the Seafoam Spray top engine cleaner and lube. So let's spray this stuff next. Look, still bubbling. Did not expect to see that. Alright, there goes nothing. Seafoam's going in a cylinder number 4. Ooh. This stuff smells the worst. Oh, look at that. It's bubbling too. That's about equal amount. That should do it. Okay. So CRC is still bubbling, and the Seafoam quit bubbling, and the Seafoam also didn't really clean up at the spot that I was cleaning. So that's pretty strange, and from the look of it, is this intake valve got a seat problem, so most of the Seafoam on this side already came out. But this intake valve port, I see some Seafoam in there still. So I guess we're just gonna have to see one valve compared to two valves, two valves, two valves. So let me get a flash and see what's going on. Alright, so let's look at intake number 1. Nothing. Brake cleaner still in there. Then let's look at intake port number 2. Brake cleaner is in there, just like this one. Then the CRC, still bubbling. I did not expect to see that. And let's look at the Seafoam, the number 1 contender. still on the right intake port, but the left one had some damage. So that's I'm gonna cover the intake ports, and I'm going to come back tomorrow. Alright, it's Wednesday, 10:45 a.m. So time to see exactly what happened. It's been sitting, I meant to let the cylinder head sit for 24 hours. It's been longer, so it should be pretty good. So let's look inside and see what it looks like. Alright, so this is a cylinder for a regular brake cleaner. This one's a non-flammable brake cleaner. This is a CRC, and this is Seafoam. So from the look of it, I can see that the brake cleaner did a pretty good job cleaning up the carbon from the intake port. Non-flammable is not as good. CRC did a little bit, just a tiny amount, and Seafoam really didn't do anything. So let's look inside and see what it looks like. So the fluid is still in one of the valves, I guess. The valve seat and valve doesn't seal very good. So now let's look at the regular non-flammable. The fluid is still there. Let's see what the CRC looks like. It looks a little bit different. Alright. And Seafoam. So I'm going to go ahead and drain them, and we'll take a look at the valves. Alright, so I dumped all the fluid out of the intake ports. So now let's see what it looks like. So first we're going to look at the regular flammable brake cleaner. Alright. The one on the left had it for had the brake cleaner on there, and I could see some differences. Now next, let's look at the non-flammable brake cleaner. Ooh, I definitely see the difference. Yeah. Next, let's look at the CRC. Alright. And last but not least, Seafoam. Alright. I think the best way to see which one did the best out of the four would be to pull the valves and look at them up close and see exactly what they look like. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next. So this is a flammable, regular brake cleaner. Let's see what that looks like. Alright, so this is what it looks like. Some of it came out. So next I'm going to remove the valve that was treated with non-flammable brake cleaner. There we go. Alright, so this one looks a little bit better. Not gonna lie to you. Next is gonna be the fancy CRC. There's still some stuff in there. Alright, so it does not look as good as a non-flammable brake cleaner. And last but not least would be the Seafoam. Boom. So that's what happened. As you can see, since the flammable brake cleaner actually evaporates, this valve is actually dry, and the other ones are still wet. So since when you start the engine would open and close the valve, kind of shake the valve. So let's see how much of that stuff will actually come off. Okay. Then non-flammable brake cleaner. See some carbon pulling out. Next would be the CRC. And Seafoam. Ooh, look at that big chunk of carbon. It's still hard. Just fell out. More stuff falling out. So next I'm going to grab a paper towel and see how easy it is to get the rest of the stuff off. Alright, so let's start with the flammable brake cleaner. Let me move them a little bit back to give me more room. Let's see. Oh, look at it. It's actually not bad. Fell off fairly easy. So this would probably happen with the valve moving back and forth. So you can see it did a pretty good job. There's still carbon on the valve, but not as much as was on there before. So flammable brake cleaner, not bad. Next, let's look at the non-flammable brake cleaner. Okay. It looks better. It looks actually cleaner than flammable brake cleaner, probably due to the chemical stain on the valve for a lot longer than this one. So, but it's actually not a bad result for something that costs $2.99 instead of Seafoam and CRC was like $13.99 or $12.99 a bottle. So next, let's move to the CRC. Alright, so CRC looks cleaner on the valve itself, but this portion didn't come out very good. Not as good as a brake cleaner. So I don't know, it's not a bad result, I'm not gonna lie to you, but there's still, this stuff didn't come out as good as both of those. So last but not least, let's look at the Seafoam. I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure, I'm just wiping that stuff off. Alright, so compared to CRC, there's still more carbon on the valve. The CRC did the best, in my opinion, getting rid of the carbon that was on the valve itself, on the flat part, but didn't do a good job on the valve stem. So alright, so you see the results, and these two were very affordable, just a brake cleaner. I think they were under $3, and these, the CRC, did a good job with the least amount of carbon on the valve face, but more than the rest on the valve stem. And yeah, I don't know. For the money, I would probably go with a non-flammable brake cleaner. It didn't do as good as these two on the valve face, but it did better on the valve stem. So the biggest bang for the buck, I'd say, was non-flammable brake cleaner. If I was going to choose between Seafoam and CRC, I think I would go for a CRC. The valve looks much cleaner than the Seafoam one. So next, let's look at the cylinder head. Let me move the valves out of the way. While the valves turned out pretty good, as you can see, there's a lot of carbon in the cylinder head still. So let's start with the flammable brake cleaner. I got some Q-tips. You can see this stuff just pretty dry, and some of it's coming off, and it actually looks pretty good, nice and smooth. Next, let's look at the non-flammable brake cleaner. You can see there's a lot more stuff in there. Look at that. But look at it. It's coming out. It's coming out very, very easy. Oh, you can actually see aluminum behind it. So actually not bad. There's a lot of stuff that came out. Look at the difference between the Q-tips. Next, let's look at the CRC. This one's still wet, and it's like sludge. It's coming out, but not as easy as the non-flammable brake cleaner. Wow. I figured that non-flammable brake cleaner would be the worst. Well, yeah, this can't see the aluminum, so but there's definitely stuff still in there. And then last but not least, let's look at the Seafoam. Look at that. It's somewhat easy to come out, but it's still sort of sticking to the cylinder head itself. Yeah, there's still a lot of stuff in there. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff in there. But I can't get to the aluminum, so Surprisingly, the non-flammable brake cleaner, in my opinion, was the better, did the best out of all four holes. So yeah, I didn't even see all that carbon and oil and whatever that stuff is. It was still in the intake port. So, but this definitely looks the best, and I'd say flammable brake cleaner looks the second best, and then between the CRC and the Seafoam, I think I would choose. I don't know. I think it's a draw. So, I mean, look at it. That's how much stuff is in there. Direct port injection. It's good and it's bad at the same time. So, yeah. So, so you can decide the best cleaner to use for your direct injected engine. But I know I'm going to be sticking with the cheap, non-flammable brake cleaner. I think it did awesome compared to the expensive two guys, and compared to non compared to the old school flammable brake cleaner. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.